That's the end of the lab safety talk, but I would like to bring up some things that have changed to the lab structure, things that I just wanted to make you aware of. So, as I mentioned before, if you have any concerns, you can talk to the technicians as well as me, so they can come to me. In addition to that, I've changed the way that the prep sheets are done. So this started over the summertime, and it should be implemented as well now in the fall and the spring term, that they're not just prep sheets, but they're check sheets that indicate location. So what I mean by that is that there now is a column indicating, so for instance, did Elvis put out liver pieces? Did he put out plastic droppers? It's not just written there. He has to physically check off that he put that out. And in addition, there should be a location now indicating where that is. So I've heard from faculty before that they couldn't find things. And sometimes stuff was not left out on the bench because it couldn't be. So for instance, in the case of the liver, the location says that it's in the fridge in room 303, so that they know that it's there. For instance, say somebody is working in biotech, they're wondering where their ice is. It would indicate that the ice is in the ice chest over in room 513, and that they would have to go and get that. And I'm hoping that this will avoid certain problems that came up where people would say that they couldn't find it.
Had this problem before.
For instance, if you notice that one of the reagents ran out, now while the technicians are supposed to be replenishing stocks, they can't be in there at all the time, especially say if it's back to back. Please, if you notice it run out, come to one of them and tell them.
I have one question. Sometimes it's difficult to find them.
So what I would suggest is that on the back of every door, and I know that some of them we still need to put up the signs because we're at the beginning of the semester, is supposed to be the schedule for those labs that are in that room, but it's also supposed to be the names of the technicians, when they're on duty, like what their hours are, and it should list their extension. Now, the phones in the lab call security. What you can do is you call security and you say, can you connect me to the technician at this extension? And they will do that for you.
The security sometimes.
Unfortunately, I can't speak for security, but every time I've called them, for instance, from a lab, and I said that I need facilities because the air conditioner is not working or there was a leaky pipe, they've always connected me to security. And they should do that also for the technicians.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so that would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
During the day, it's easier because we have more technicians.
In the evening I come and then I cannot now leave.
And keep in mind, the technicians, especially in the evenings, they're supposed to be coming through. In the mornings, they're supposed to be coming through to check on it. No.
Yeah. Yes, in the evenings, one technician covers several labs. That makes it difficult to grab them when you need them. So.
Well, like I said, they're in the evening technician, who is Brendan, he's supposed to come by about a half an hour after every lab starts to check and make sure that everything's going smoothly. So every lab is supposed to see the technician at least once, whether he was called for or not. And unfortunately, since it is the evening and there are less labs, we only have one technician on duty. We have one technician in the morning, we have an overlap of technicians during the day, and then we have the one technician in the evenings. And it seemed to work out pretty well. Like we have about, over the course of the semester, 15 labs that are evening labs. We had about that same amount in the summer, and it seemed to work out okay.
He visits me all the time.
Okay, so changes to the lab setup from the prep sheets cannot be approved by the lab technicians. So I bring this up because apparently in the past what sometimes happened is a faculty member would say, I want to do this lab instead of this lab, or can you give me these chemicals to work with for this lab? The technicians did stuff like that in the past. It can't be allowed to work that way anymore because there needs to be a standardization of the labs. From a safety standpoint, we can't just have random chemicals that people don't know about being out. We can't have the wrong lab setups being put out that people might come in later and interact with. We need the appropriate waste bottles put out if new chemicals are being introduced. Now, this does not mean that there is no flexibility, but the point is the technicians can't take responsibility for this, and they've been told that. What you need to do is you need to contact me and the coordinator of the course, and we'll be able to say whether or not we can shift things around for you or change things, but at least then we'll know about it. We'll make sure the appropriate waste container is put out. We'll make sure that the other stuff is put on a different card and properly indicated. I bring stuff like this up because, the technicians could themselves get into trouble for this. Say they set something up and it wasn't done the way that you wanted. Well, suddenly the technicians are being called into question that they didn't do X, Y, and Z items, but the reality is that they were not supposed to be approving it in the first place. So this protects them, it makes sure that everything is safe, and it makes sure that people know if there are changes going on. And so obviously things will happen. So like for instance, I wasn't here last winter, but with all of the times that labs got closed or shut down because of the snow days, obviously things had to be moved around. And things like that will happen in the future, we know about it. But the point is that there needs to be a proper chain that notifies everybody that these labs are going to be left out. So for instance, we're doing acid-base this week, but there's 2 labs that didn't get to do reactions last week, and so we have to leave that out. And we have to leave a cart that says reactions lab. We have to leave a cart that says
Yeah, 2
acid-base.
different things, yeah.
So it's like I said, it's a matter of needing to be told so the proper setups are taken. So the other thing that I wanted to point out to you is the term cleaning up the lab and what we mean by it. So in this case, lab materials, chemicals, slides, posters, displays, things like that, they must be returned to where they were before the lab began, and the bench tops must be left clean. So some faculty think that the technician staff is supposed to be cleaning the lab, and that means that they can leave the lab in whatever state, the technicians will come back and they'll put things where they're supposed to be. That's not true. The setup that you get when you show up to lab, so say there's a cart here, there's a few bins on it with chemicals. You take those bins and you distributed them to the lab, to the students. They have to now go back into those bins and back onto that cart when you're done. If you took out microscopes, those microscopes have to go back into the cabinet. The technicians, while they come in, may see something out of place and put it right, but they're not meant to be resetting the labs after every one that's done. What they are meant to do is they're meant to be replenishing things that are running out, replacing things that break, and then at the beginning of the week they're supposed to be setting up the new labs. At the end of the week they're supposed to be taking down the old labs, putting things away, putting out the waste containers and such like that. But the concept of the technicians cleaning up, meaning they're going to put everything away.
I make my students clean up after themselves, push in their chairs, and then before I leave, and have the best IV, make sure.
Oh, and that's exactly.
Because I teach in the night, but there's a class coming early in the morning. Before they even play the patients come. Yeah, so it's good to keep it in proper condition for the early morning class.
And that's really, I get it, that's what's really appreciated. People that make sure that everything is set up for the next person, especially if you're in the night, because by the morning, there might not be. But this is different. When I say here that if students bring chairs into the lab space, they must put them back, I know a lot of faculty like to lecture in the lab spaces. The stools are uncomfortable, and I understand that. I mean, if they're going to sit for a while. So especially in A&P, where there's a lot more lecturing, they'll bring chairs in from across the way. We do allow it, but they must be put back. We can't have those chairs sitting there. So if the students brought the chairs in, the students have to bring the chairs back. We will allow it because, it is uncomfortable, these stools, unfortunately. I mean, if it were up to me, I'd have nice soft padded chairs for everybody, but we have stools.